Most of the time, taking turns is all about conversation designers, but since this meetup is dedicated to the intersection of gaming, gamification, and conversational AI, we brought in a special expert from the gaming field, Nir Meidan. He was a game developer for several gaming companies and a former UX engineer at Google. How are you, Nir?
I'm great, thank you.
How did you become a game developer?
I think gaming has been a long-time passion of mine. I've been into gaming as a kid, right? I was fortunate enough to have a computer very early on in the late 80s. So combining that with my need to kind of take things apart and see how they're built, I kind of ended up going into gaming and building games. Yeah, I mean, I think as an engineer, I like to see how things are when you take them apart, right? And if I think back, I remember that I used to have this I don't know if you remember this. I used to have late in the late 80s, I had this development environment where we used to get the games, but they were not even compiled back then. So you'd get an actual file with all the code, and you just run it and play it, and that's how we would get the games. And that really, it's like looking under the hood of the car, right? So I remember as a kid, it was literally impossible to not go in and mess with all those values, right? And see how things work. And I think that's also what ignited in me, this passion for coding.
Let's talk about conversational AI in the gaming industry. How can the intersection, the implementation of conversational AI in the game itself can make the experience better for you, the game developer, and maybe even the gamer?
So if I look at how we write conversations for games today, it is basically the same way that you would write conversation for a book or a movie. And the formats are very different inherently because games are largely interactive, right? So the player can be in different player states, and the world can be in different states whenever you come and interact with an NPC or with a character in the game, right? And from a production perspective, we can't have the writer write a text that can fit every single situation that can occur, right? As games get more complex, if you look at really advanced RPGs today, right, you can do a million different things in the game, and not every NPC can. It's not feasible to have something prepared for every situation, right? So what this creates is this sort of mold, right? This is a very fixed kind of way of working. So it leads to very fixed results, which are they don't really fit with the format. So if I'm looking at over the last couple of decades, the gaming world has really made huge advancements in all kinds of different areas, and I think this is one of the places where we haven't actually made enough progress. So I think these kinds of tools these kinds of technologies can literally help to break the mold and release the content creators to actually try to deliver the experience that they want to deliver, instead of having to mess with this really constrained production tool chain, right, or production method. So if I look at it in the end, I think it could lead to obviously a lot more deeper and more meaningful conversations inside the games, and also reduce the amount of work that has to go into actually making just basics of conversations. So between pushing the envelope on what we can do and also making everything easier to do, I think that we are really giving these technologies could give a lot of benefit to the gamers, right? It could really actually revolutionize the way that we deal with this whole subject of conversations and dialogues.
And from the gamer standpoint, when you have an NPC that you can chat with, what does it make to the experience?
I mean, I think every gamer would like to have to be able to have a free-flowing conversation with a character, right, that they engage with in a game, and I think that it sticks out like a sore thumb almost when you want to talk to a character, but the options are limited. You don't have the option that you actually want, that represents your actual desire to have a choice in the game. And obviously the response of the character is even more limited than that, right? So I think there is really, it's hard to even imagine what length we could go to, right, once we have these technologies and we put them in the hands of talented creators.
You saw the Apex Legends demo. What do you think about it and about the possibilities it can open for the industry?
I think it's very interesting because in effect, what you're doing is you're creating some sort of a meta conversation here, right? Because you're taking a character that you would normally play in a game and you're doing certain actions and you're giving it a whole new dimension of talking to the player in a personalized way. And it's something that is not inside the game itself and not fulfilling a game function, but like a meta game function, right? So I think this is really exciting. It can open a lot of really interesting doors for game developers.
What is the game you designed or developed that made you the proudest?
So one of the games that I made that I'm the proudest of is called Muniz. It's not a very well-known game, but I think that the story of it makes me at least feel very content, because it was me and two more partners. We had all quit our jobs. We said we're going to make a game. We went and we raised a little bit of money from friends and family, and we sat on my couch at home for 3 months and we made a game, and we got like 10 million downloads or something like that in the following months. So it was really like the story from A to Z is really exciting to me because everything worked and was in place.
Which also leads us to the funniest experience you had, like off-course experience as a game developer.
When we released this game, this was like maybe something like 10 years ago. At that time, freemium was still not like the monetization. Yeah, it wasn't the monetization method of choice by everyone, right? So we were still trying to make a game in a world where you sell a game for $1. And when we released the game, we were very excited. We went to celebrate in what was affordable to us back then, which was like a fast food burger joint, right? And when we went there, one of my partners was talking to the clerk there, and he was explaining that we just released a game and we were very excited, right? And in response, her question was, oh, when will it be available on the pirated app store so I can get it without paying, right? So I think I will never forget that. Always reminds me that I come from Israel, right?
What tips can you give to people who watch us and say, I want to be a game developer, how do I start?
So I think the first thing is it's a craft, and you always have to be busy doing it, right? You always have to practice, even if you don't have any, even if you can't get to releasing a game, you should make games for yourself, for your friends, right? You should always be busy doing it. And the other tip that I would give, like in any project or business, is find the right partners. So find people that you like working with, that you trust them, and that you complement each other. That will take you a long way.
Nir Meidan, a game developer and a former UX engineer at Google, thank you very much for being with us, and good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And for everybody watching, check out our Discord channel, which is great for gamers and for conversational designers as well. Take care. Back to you, Jason and Yaki, by the poolside.